Well, welcome STEMtrepreneurs to our little mini lesson on market research. As the STEMtrepreneurs, as the business students in your toy design team, you are going to be responsible for being familiar with market research and knowing the process for it. And as you are going to see in this video, market research is so important to creating products. It's probably one of the most important functions you can do as you start designing your products. One of the big things you're going to have to do in your toy design team is you're going to have to market, and market research is a part of it. And we just want to focus for a little bit on what is marketing. And I think I shared this with you last year, a little bit in 6th grade when we did some projects. But we're going to really focus on marketing in this project specifically. You're going to do a marketing campaign. You're going to advertise. You're going to do a few other things as well. In a sense, here's what marketing is. If you look at the screen, let me actually pull up my pen here. If you look at the screen that we have here, you have two things. Here on the left-hand side, we have a product that's been produced. We have all these different types of cell phones. And then on the right-hand side, we have people. Okay, so a business creates these cell phones. Let's say it's Apple. Okay, they create these cell phones, and then people want to buy them. What marketing is, it's the study of how to connect them. It's the study of how to get people to really buy these phones. And it's the study of how to get goods and services to these phones. In marketing, a lot of people think marketing is always advertising. Well, in marketing, besides advertising, you also have to talk about distribution. How do you actually physically move these goods to these people, to these consumers? Are you going to ship them on a boat? Are you going to ship them on a train? Are you going to put them in a store? Are you going to sell them online? How are you going to get them to the consumers? And then we also talk about pricing and marketing and advertising as well, and actually what the characteristics of the product are. So whenever you think about marketing, just think about this connection. Marketing, in a lot of senses, it is, simply put, it's the study of how to get these phones to these consumers and how to connect them. Okay, how do we get these consumers to get these phones? That's the big question that marketing answers. But then there's also a bigger question, and that bigger question is going to be, what do these people want? What do these consumers want? So as we go through this lesson, just remember what our learning target is going to be. It is, I can analyze the needs and wants of a target market. Okay, so I can analyze the needs and wants of a target market. Now, this word target market comes up a few times, and you're going to hear it again and again and again. Your target market is who specifically you're selling to. So it could be a group of children, it could be 3 to 8-year-old boys, but it's specifically who you are selling to. And as we've talked about before, especially in your sales pitches, we want to know what the needs and wants are of them. Why do they want this? So throughout this, you're going to learn how to analyze the needs and wants of your target market. But how do businesses know what these needs and wants are? How do they know what people want? They just can't guess. They actually have to go through a research process, and that is where you come in as STEMtrepreneurs. You have to figure this out. And really, market research is a big study. There are many jobs available in marketing and market research, and if you go on to study marketing in college, you're going to take, or after school, you're going to take classes. In high school, there are so many marketing classes you can take in different subject areas, and research is a key component of everything. And what these businesses have to do is they have to research their market, and not surprisingly then, we have market research. So what do these people want? What do these people want, and how do I know what they want? In market research, you have to remember a few things, and I'm actually going to pull up different colored pens to illustrate this for you. So let's focus on the black word population. When you've identified your whole target market, so let's say your whole target market is going to be all all boys 3 to 7 years old in the U.S. And let's say that all of these people on the screen represent all the boys in the U.S. ages 3 to 7. All right. So this whole group of people is called your population. It's your entire target market. Now, as you can imagine, if we had all 3 to 7-year-old boys in the U.S., that's a lot of people, and There's no way that we can research all of them. You'd have to spend years to talk to every 3 to 7-year-old boy in the US, and that's just not possible. So in research and in a lot of other disciplines and a lot of other subjects, whenever we talk about research specifically, it really isn't practical to research the entire population, so we have to take a sample of this population. We have to take a sample. And if you can think of a sample, let's say, I'm going to do ages 3 to 7-year-old boys in the US, but let's just say, for the sake of this, I'm only going to do 3 to 7-year-old boys who live maybe in the Midwest. I'm going to send them a survey, or I'm going to do 3 to 7-year-old boys who live in Waukesha, okay? So a sample is going to be a small group of your population, and then this is going to be who you research. And what you're hoping, when you take your sample, when you have the small group, that you can then take those results and then you can say, okay, this is what this sample thinks. So this sample of boys really likes action figures. They really like action figures that you can wind up and that you can interchange all the parts for. We are pretty confident then that with with the research from this sample, we can then say the whole population of boys is like that. So really they're going to take this small sample of people in the population, and they're going to take those results and they're going to apply them to the whole population. So that's a sample. Now, one of the things you have to be careful of with sampling is you want your sample to be random. Because if your sample isn't random, your results could be skewed. So for instance, let's say I picked boys ages 3 to 7 years old, but most of the boys who I picked lived in a house that would be classified as living in poverty. The problem with that is those families may not be able to afford the same types of toys as, say, children who come from a household that's a little bit more wealthy. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure your samples are random, so you mix up, and so your actual sample is a little bit more mixed up, and so your results aren't biased and they're not skewed in one direction. Okay? And we're really not going to focus on that too much in this project because we're going to go over to random, but it's important to note that your sample needs to be random. So that's important to realize. And so, if you think about it, if I take my green pen here, when we talk about random samples, instead of just picking this specific sample here, I may take this boy, and I may take this boy, and I may take, I'll do this boy, and this boy, and this boy, and I'll do one more. And my hope is that this group of people may be very much alike, but this group of people may be different, and I want to deal with this group of people because it's going to be more representative of your entire population. So to review, your population is your whole target market. It's not all people in the world, it's your whole target market. And then to do your research, you're going to pick a sample, but you want to make sure that that sample is random so that you have a nice representation of your whole population. So population sample, random sampling, really important in market research. We're going to just introduce a few very quick vocabulary words here. When we talk about market research, you're going to hear the words primary and secondary, primary and secondary. Here's what you can think about the big difference. Primary research is going to be research that you conduct for your purposes of your project. So that's research that you conduct. Secondary research typically is research that others have done and that you can use for this project. Okay? So for my primary research, I might go out and I might talk to 5 boys in my area, 5 boys for my action figure research. Secondary research, I might pick up a report that somebody else did. So for this, that's the biggest difference, primary versus secondary. And there's also numerical versus non-numerical. Numerical research, you're going to get a lot of numbered results. So you're going to get data, you're going to get statistics. Non-numerical results, though, are going to be they're going to typically be word data. So you might collect people's opinions. You might collect, like for action figures, you might collect a bunch of words that describe the features that children want on their action figures. So again, we're going to deal with both of these in a little bit, but especially in future projects that we do, numerical versus non-numerical data. So again, numerical data is any data that has to deal with numbers. Non-numerical would be words, it would be qualities associated with your market. Methods of market research, there are a bunch. For this project, the two that we are going to focus on is going to be a survey and a focus group. Some of you, I think all of you probably at some point have taken surveys before. It's just a list of questions that you're going to use to ask, to talk to your market and to gather information from your target market. Now, typically surveys are going to have more numerical data. So you might have a 5-question survey where people have to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how they like each feature of this action figure, and that's going to yield a bunch of numbers. The reason for that is you can imagine you have a survey, you send it out to people, and if you collect it, it's a lot easier if you have numbers and you can quickly read them. A focus group, though, is going to be a group that you just get together and you do interviews with, and you're going to be doing this at Randall. And a focus group, a lot of times, is going to yield non-numerical data, because you're going to interview them and you're going to look for qualities. You're going to look for the words that they say. So you might ask this focus group, you might give them 3 action figures, and you might say, which of these action figures do you like better and why? So we're going to say non-numerical. And it takes, as you can imagine, takes a lot longer to gather data from focus group, but the data from a focus group is a little bit more detailed than a survey. So they both have positives and negatives. All right. So a little bit of background on market research. Now, I want to design an awesome new cell phone that is better than the iPhone. Let's say that I want to do that. So first question we have to ask ourselves is, what's our target market? What is our target market? Now remember, we're going to take a sample of this whole population. All right. We're going to take a sample. So again, this is my target market, and I want to sample, let's see here. We're going to take a random sampling of these people. Again, we want to have people with relatively different characteristics, so we get numbers that are a little bit more representative of the whole population. But my target market, let's say that, I'm going to do, can be men or women, and probably, let's just say for the sake of this, as this is in my age range, we're going to do 20 to 30, ages 20 to 30. We're going to do men, women, and I also want to make a cell phone that I think a lot of business people will use. And so I am going to say that our target market is going to be young professionals, so business people, ages 20 to 30. And it can be men or women. So that is going to be my target market. So then the question is, how do I know? So how do I know what type of phone to make, and how should I conduct my research? These are the questions I have to ask for your toy design project. How do you know what type of toy you're going to make, and how do you conduct your toy research? So let's say I start conducting a survey. Now, for my survey, here I just created a few sample questions of the survey would have. So maybe on this survey, maybe I want to even be really fancy and do a survey online. One question I might ask is, please choose the feature that you would most like on a cell phone. I could do like a multiple choice response, and I'd say A, GPS, B, camera, C, internet browsing, or D, apps. And my respondents would just go in and they would circle which one that they would want. And then you can quickly go in and you can tally how many times letter A was chosen, how many times letter B, C, and D were chosen as well. Something else you could do is you could do a scale, and the fancy term for this is actually a Likert scale. Okay, that's actually a gentleman's name, so it's called a Likert scale, and businesses use these all the time. They're very popular. So maybe you're going to say, I prefer smaller phones, and then you're going to ask your respondents to rate how well you agree with this statement, with the number 1 being totally disagree, number 5 being totally agree, and then number 3 is usually neutral, it really doesn't matter, and then 2 would be disagree, and 4 would be agree. I happen to really prefer smaller phones, so I'm going to go in and say 5. And I actually also really do like GPS, so I prefer that as well. So I prefer smaller phones, and then you would then go in and tally how many times people agreed with this statement, how many times people totally agreed, how many times people said they were neutral, and on and on. So these are a few examples. You could actually do true and false answers as well. Remember, with a survey, we're looking for quick numerical results, so we can quickly gather the data, and we can even go and create charts if we wanted to for that. Well, I also want to do a focus group. Remember, for focus groups, the questions are going to be a little bit more detailed. So maybe one of the questions I'm going to have, let's say I'm sitting down with a group of 10 people. And one of the things I might say is, all right, let's have a discussion about cell phone features. What features would you like on a cell phone, and what features do you not like on a phone? And I would maybe go around and I would have every person answer this question, and then I would actually write down each of their answers. So again, it takes more time, but I get really detailed responses. Something else I might do is ask them to compare. So of the phones that are currently on the market, which one do you like the most? What, if anything, could be done to improve it? And then I would ask them which phones on the market they like. I'd ask them to then improve it and tell me why they think that. Something that's really powerful with focus groups is when you have your consumers, when you have the people who you're talking to, when you have them actually do demonstrations and you can observe them. And this is going to be really cool really important in your toy design project, because maybe your group that you're going to conduct, your focus group, maybe you're going to give your kids 3 or 4 toys and you're just going to observe how they interact with those toys, and then you're going to ask them some questions. Because when you watch how they interact with toys, you're going to want to see how they play with certain features. Are they struggling with certain things? Are there some things that they really like? Are there some things that are really capturing their attention? In this phone example, I could tell everybody, please examine and use the 3 phones on the table. So maybe I've brought in 3 cell phones. I'm going to watch them use them, and then I'm going to ask them, which one do you prefer and why? A lot of times consumers will think one thing, but what we really want to know too is how they actually use the product, because we want to make it easy for them and we want to make it user friendly. So again, some strategies to use in your focus group, and when you start compiling your focus group questions, we'll be here to help you through that too, and we have some actual videos of focus groups for you to watch as well. So after gathering this data, I would gather my survey data, my numerical data, I would gather my focus group data, I would compile my data, have some discussions with my team, and I would start drawing conclusions and to start designing my product. So what did my results say? How should we move forward in designing the best cell phone that we can? So, big question for you STEMtrepreneurs. How can market research help you to design a toy? You're going to go down to Randall. You're going to have a group of kids, and you're going to need to conduct research to figure out what kind of toys would you like. Now, maybe when you go to Randall, you're going to realize, well, maybe I want to just separate my market and focus on boys and girls. So maybe you're going to do separate focus groups. That's something you can do as well. So the big question to think about today and into the next week is, how can market research help you to design a toy? So if you do have any questions on market research, please let me know. But we're going to continue with this now, and we encourage you to go look at my calendar. We ask you to go look at my calendar and my tasks for today's assignment that goes along with this lesson.